Yamunatiravanachari, Yamunatiravanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Hari, Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari, Gaurava Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Gurudev, Gurudev, Jaya Gurudev, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Harinam की जय, प्रभुपाद की जय, वैष्णव की जय, निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे, हरि हरि। So Hare Krishna to all the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. I am extremely grateful to His Grace Manibhushan Krishna Prabhuji, His Grace Sudarshan Vasudev Prabhuji, and His Grace Yogana Prabhuji for giving me this opportunity to glorify Srimad Bhagavatam. I am not at all qualified to glorify Srimad Bhagavatam, but I would do so based on the instructions received from my superiors and for my own purification. So I would like to seek your kind blessings so that I repeat the words of Srila Prabhupada and other acharyas. So today we will be covering canto number 3, chapter number 31, text number 15. So we will start the class with our prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiridityaya Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Today is a very auspicious day. Today is Ekadasi, and tomorrow is Varaha Dwadasi. So we will also touch upon Varaha Dwadasi for about 5 minutes at the end of the class today. So let us all recite together from Canto number 3, chapter number 31, text number 15. Yanmayayor guna nibandanesmin samsarike pati charmastad abhishamena nashtasmriti punar ayam pravirnita lokam yukta kaya mahad anugraham antarena. Synonyms. Yet of the Lord, Mayaya, by the Maya, Guruguna, arising from the great modes, Karma, activities, Nibandhane, with bonds, Asmin, this, Samsarike, of the repeated birth and death, Pati, on the path, Charan, wandering, Tat, of him, Abhishamena, with great pains, Nashta, loss, Smritihi, memory, Punaha, again, Ayam, this living entity, Pravarnita, may realize, Lokam, his true nature, Yuktaya Kaya, by what means, Mahat Anugraham, the mercy of the Lord, Antarena, without. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The human soul further prays. This living entity is put under the influence of material nature and continues a hard struggle for existence on the path of repeated birth and death. This conditioned life is due to his forgetfulness of his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, without the Lord's mercy, how can he again engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord? Purport. The Mayavadi philosophers say that simply by cultivation of knowledge by mental speculation, one can be liberated. One can be liberated from the condition of material bondage. But here it is said one is liberated not by knowledge, but by the mercy of the Supreme Lord. The knowledge the conditioned soul gains by mental speculation, however powerful it may be, is always too imperfect to approach the absolute truth. It is said that without the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one cannot understand him or his actual form, quality, and name. Those who are not in devotional service go on speculating from many thousands of years, but they are still unable to understand the nature of the absolute truth. One can be liberated in the knowledge of the absolute truth simply by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is clearly said that said herein that our memory is lost because we are now covered by his material energy. Arguments may be put forward as to why we have been put under the influence of this material energy by the supreme will of the Lord. This is explained in the Bhagavad Gita, where the Lord says, I am sitting in everyone's heart, and due to me, one is forgetful or one is alive in knowledge. The forgetfulness of the conditioned soul is also due to the direction of the Supreme Lord. A living entity misuses his little independence when he wants to lord it over material nature. This misuse of independence, which is called Maya, is always available. Otherwise, there would be no independence. Independence implies that one can use it properly or improperly. It is not static, it is dynamic. Therefore, misuse of independence is a cause of being influenced by Maya. Maya is so strong that the Lord says that it is very difficult to surmount her influence, but one can do so very easily if he surrenders onto me. Mayam eva ye prapadyante. Anyone who surrenders onto him can overcome the influence of the stringent laws of material nature. It is clearly said that said here that a living entity is put under the influence of Maya by his will, and if anyone wants to get out of this entanglement, this can be made possible simply by his mercy. The activities of the conditioned souls under the influence of material nature are explained herein. Every conditioned soul is engaged in different types of work under the influence of material nature. We can see in the material world that the conditioned soul acts so powerfully that he is playing wonderfully in creating the so-called advancements of material civilization for sense gratification, but actually his position is to know that he is an eternal servant of the Supreme Lord. When he is actually in perfect knowledge, he knows that the Lord is supreme worshipable object and that the living entity is his eternal servant. Without this knowledge, he engages in material activities that is called ignorance. So Hare Krishna once again to all the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. So it's a very beautiful sloka. The discussion is between Lord Kapila and Mother Devahuti. So we'll get into the details of sloka, but before that, we will just get into some kind of introduction so that we can probably understand or appreciate the sloka in a very nice way. And all the devotees have been reading these slokas continuously over the last so many months now. So, so actually, we are actually living in a generation where technology is wireless, cooking is fireless, sweets are sugarless, friendships are baseless, relationships are loveless, mind is restless, feelings are expressionless, emotions are tearless, youth are faithless, children are humorless, aims are pathless, drivings is reckless, worries are needless, society is godless, and finally our life is meaningless. Right from the start of technology to our life, we see that there is less of everything and there is no more of everything. So in order to make our life more meaningful, we have to take shelter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, because the message contained in both these granthas, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam and Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam and Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita, is priceless. We cannot really put a value because it helps us how to lead a life with contentment and with complete submissiveness to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in the context of Canto 3, from chapter number 25 to 32, we have seen that in the absence of the head of the family or the father, the grown-up son has to actually take charge of his mother and to serve her nicely to the best of his ability. And the duty of the husband is to leave home when his son actually is grown up. So the grown-up son has to take charge of his mother and his family. There is no point in actually just running behind money till 70 years or 80 years. And after a point of time, they will realize that, oh, I have accumulated so much of money, but I really do not know what to do with it. Just to keep earning has no limits. One must actually get into the Vanaprastha stage. The Vanaprastha stage
is actually a path where one has to go to the forest. One may ask, where is the forest? There are no forests. There's deforestation everywhere. So when we talk about forest, we are talking about a place where we can actually cultivate our spiritual life, and that becomes a top priority. So this Vanaprastha order is a complete retirement from the householder life. A time when one can actually take the opportunity to prepare himself to go back to the Godhead. So how can we do that? One of the things is we have to completely be shedding one's material attachment and to become free from the reputation of samsara, which is birth and death. So we have to start preparing ourselves, and this is exactly what Kardama Prajapati did. Kardama Prajapati did the same thing. He went into a renounced order of life, and his son Kapila Dev is actually now going to be taking care of his mother Devahuti. So Kapila Dev speaks to his mother Devahuti on the topic of self-realization. So the instructions of Kapila Dev to his mother Devahuti is actually contained in the 3rd canto, chapters number 25 to 32 of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So the instructions of Kapila Dev to his mother Devahuti was on the banks of Bindu Sarovar, the Bindu Sarovar lake. So Kapila Dev explains to his mother Devahuti the Sankhya philosophy. And it is something similar to what Lord Krishna personally expounded the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita to his friend Arjuna. Similarly, like how Arjuna knew that Krishna is his spiritual master, Mother Devahuti knew that her son is her spiritual master. So the scriptures have a purpose and they have a meaning. But unfortunately, what has happened, because of the effects of Kali and because of the fast life that we are currently experiencing, the foolish, the intelligent, unintelligent, the foolish and the unintelligent people misinterpret the scriptures and they give their own views. If I'm going to be saying that I'm going to be talking from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, there may not be many people who would be ready to even hear. But if I'm going to be telling that I'm going to be talking something from my concocted mind, there'll be a lot of people who will be ready to hear. Oh, so he's going to be talking about something which is different. 2 plus 2 is equal to 4 in India. 2 plus 2 is equal to 4 in America. 2 plus 2 is equal to 4 in Europe. 2 plus 2 is equal to 4 in Africa or any other continent. Which only goes to show that the philosophy contained within the scriptures don't change. But unfortunately, the mind of the concocted individual give it a completely different interpretation, which creates a lot of confusion among the readers. So essentially, it is important to follow the instructions imparted by Lord Krishna or Lord Kapiladev so that one can get the highest benefit. And it is actually very relevant. Although Bhagavan Lord Krishna gave Bhagavad Gita to us 5,000 years ago, the principles contained in the Bhagavad Gita is very relevant to us even today. Be it Karma Yoga, be it Bhakti Yoga, be it Jnana Yoga, it is very relevant today. So the knowledge that is contained in the scriptures do not age. They are very relevant at any point of time that one reads the scripture. So today we are looking at chapter number 31. In chapter number 30, let us actually quickly recap the contents so that 30 and 31 can be actually read together for us to understand. So in chapter number 30, the focus is on the life of a materialist. Who is a materialist? A materialist is the one who does not understand Atma Tattva. A materialist, the aim of a materialist is that he or she wants to just acquire materialistic pleasures. So this materialist does not know the power of time. Lord Krishna says, Aham kalosmi. Bhagavan is time. Everything gets absorbed. So this materialist actually is being carried away, just like how the clouds are carried away by the powerful wind. It's a beautiful analogy that is given here. So this materialist, he works very hard day and night to acquire wealth for his pleasure, which eventually gets destroyed by time. And by ignorance, this materialist has accepted temporary things related to his body, like his home, like his land, like his car, like his jewelry, etc., as being permanent. So Lord Krishna says, Anityam Ashukam Lokam. What does it mean? The world, this world, is declared by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be temporary and full of miseries. Dukkhalayam asaswatam. But we find pleasures, we find satisfaction in whatever species that we take. Leave alone the human species. Suppose if I am born as a pig, I will still take certain level of pleasures and satisfaction in the condition of being a pig. So this happens because the jiva is actually completely bewildered by Maya. And the worst thing is that when I was just preparing for the class, what I have understood is, and what I have read from Srila Prabhupada's purport is that the jiva is little inclined to give up his body. He is little inclined. He doesn't want to die, that means. The jiva prays, oh, my Lord, let me at least live for 90 years. Let me be happy at least 90 years. And the jiva is ready to go to hell because even if he goes to hell, he is actually looking for some delight in the hell, for enjoyment. I would like to share a story of a monkey. I'm sure most of us here would have heard about this. You know, monkeys are very restless. So that's why they say your mind is like monkey, you know. So this monkey, the restless monkey, was actually dancing. And the monkey came across some liquor. So the monkey said, oh, there's something which is shining. So let me see what it is. So the monkey tastes this liquor and is completely in enjoyment and is dancing here and there. So as he was dancing, there was a scorpion which actually bit this monkey, and this monkey was in a lot of pain and it was still dancing with one leg. As it was dancing and moving forward, it tripped on a stone and it actually went into a deep well. And fortunately enough, the monkey caught hold of a root of a tree, and it was actually hanging, and it was actually screaming for help. And at that point of time, inside the well, there were a few rats, and these rats were actually trying to eat the root, which was actually being held by the monkey. And the monkey just looks down. There are a few snakes inside the well. So this is the situation of a monkey. In the meanwhile, what happens? There's a big tree adjacent to this well, which has got a nice honeycomb. So there were a few boys who actually wanted to take the honey. So what they did, they took a few stones and they were actually throwing the stones at the honeycomb. So this monkey is actually observing all these things. So this monkey, on one hand, it was holding the root of the tree. On the other hand, there's a honeycomb right on top. Below there are snakes. And one stone hit the honeycomb, and honey was actually dripping, and the honey actually fell on the tongue of the monkey, and the monkey says, how nice is this honey? Without realizing that in a few moments of time, it is going to fall, because the rats are going to eat the root, and it is going to fall, and the snakes are ready to swallow the monkey. But even at that juncture, this monkey is actually looking for this enjoyment. That is exactly what we are currently experiencing in this material life. So the so-called enjoyment and the so-called satisfaction is actually very, very deep-rooted. Deep-rooted towards the body, deep-rooted towards the wife, deep-rooted towards the husband, deep-rooted towards the children, deep-rooted towards the home, deep-rooted towards the animals, deep-rooted towards the wealth, deep-rooted towards the friends, etc., etc. Around 10 years ago, there was one American who had millions of dollars with him. On his deathbed, he actually wrote the will in favor of his pet cat. My millions of dollars will go to my pet cat, because he was extremely worried, if I die, who will take care of my pet cat? So this is the level of deep-rooted attraction towards whatever is there around us. The ant inside the ant hill wants to have a secured family. The rat inside the rat hole wants a secured family. A lion inside or lion in the forest wants a secured family. A human also in his 2 or 3 bedroom apartment wants a secured family. Having a secured family is not a problem. We should have that thing. But are we Krishnizing the family is what is extremely important and relevant at this particular juncture. So this materialist remains in this family life, which is full of diplomacy and politics. He has to manage his wife. He has to manage his in-laws. He has to manage his parents. He has to manage his friends, his relatives, his children, etc. And everything appears to be going very well as long as he is able to supply necessary comforts to the so-called family and relatives. The minute he is unable to contribute materially, on the other hand, if he is able to contribute spiritually to his family, that's completely a different story that we are talking about. If this materialist is unable to contribute materially to his family, the family members are not going to respect him and they will treat him like a old, worn out ox. Have you seen in villages, the old ox will be sitting in one place and nobody will bother. The owner, even few years before, he would have hit the ox in order for the ox to plow his land in a good way so that we can produce some nice fruits and vegetables. But once the ox becomes old and it is unable to even get up, so he will put the ox in one corner and maybe he might negligently feed the ox maybe once or twice a day and nobody cares. So the life of the materialist, something is like that. He is treated like a pet dog and eats whatever is negligently being given to him. So as one becomes old, the glands become congested, the eyes is not able to see properly, the ears is not able to hear properly, there is mucus formation, he is coughing, there is the throat rattles, he is not able to swallow. All these things happen and he is actually in a pathetic situation. All these things are being talked by Lord Kapila to his mother Devahuti. How difficult it is if we are not going to be engaged in Krishna consciousness. So at the time of death, like how Ajamila saw, Ajamila was lucky because he said Narayana, Narayana, Narayana. So the Yamadutas came and the Vishnu Dutas also came. This materialist doesn't know who is actually Vishnu Duta in the first place. He doesn't know who is Vishnu in the first place. He doesn't know who is Krishna in the first place. He doesn't know what is the Hare Krishna Mahamantra in the first place. He has not done any kind of spiritual activities because all his life he's been running behind money to accumulate some pleasures in the form of money, in the form of house, etc., etc. So this materialist, because he has been a materialist, and on top of that, he has performed certain sinful activities in order to acquire wealth to satisfy his family. Who will come? Will Vishnu Dutas come? No, only Yamadutas will come. So the terrible looking Yamadutas stand in front of him and he is actually passing stool and urine because of great fear that is getting inflicted upon him. So his heart is completely broken and he's afflicted by thirst, he's afflicted by hunger, he's afflicted by fatigue, and then he experiences hell because of the sinful association that he has had in the past. So he may be put in different types of hell, Tamishra, Anda Tamishra, Raurava, etc., where there are so many kinds of punishment. We need not worry about it, devotees of Lord Krishna. And Prabhupada has given us a very beautiful life. We need not worry about hell because, like what they say, Antakale Mameva, we have to remember Krishna, but for devotees who are actually practicing Krishna consciousness, even if for some reason, if the devotee forgets for a minute Lord Krishna, Krishna will remember us and he will come in front of us. So we need not worry about hell. This is only the theoretical aspects that we are actually talking about. So this jiva goes through a lot of hellish conditions, and by the arrangement of Lord and by his karma, he suffers, and then he has to take many births in the lower forms of life, and then he becomes purified, and then he gets a human body. And this is actually the starting point of chapter number 31 that we are going to cover today. So Lord Kapila instructs to his mother Devahuti on the movements of the living entities in chapter number 31. He first talks about the development of the human body inside the mother's womb. Then he talks about the agony that is faced by the child in the mother's womb. Then he talks about the different prayers that is being offered by the fetus inside the mother's womb. Then there are certain realizations that comes through that one actually has to surrender to the Supreme Lord. Then the other thing is, the realization is the human form of life is the highest. Then there are different aspects of the different kinds of conditioning that one has to go through. Then what are the different dangers that the jiva has to experience if he's going to have association with women, etc., etc. And how these fruitive activities, which is again mentioned in the Karma Kanda in Bhagavad Gita, which is not going to help us in any manner. So in chapter 31, the initial verses talks about how the embryo gets developed into the mother's womb. And then now we will slightly dwell upon the kind of suffering that the fetus experiences inside the womb. So the fetus actually gets its nutrition based on whatever the mother consumes. If the mother is going to consume some very spicy bonda or a spicy pakoda or a spicy what's it called? Samosa. It is going to be very difficult for this fetus to absorb this. And the worms inside the mother's body bites the fetus on a regular basis. When we go to India and we experience mosquito bites, involuntarily our hands will go like this and actually go to the exact place where the mosquito is actually hurting us. But this child, when the worm bites, is not able to move because it is in a very tight compartment. The hands are unable to work on its own. So unable to move, the child remains lying in the abdomen of the mother and his head is turned downwards. Just imagine such a situation. All of us have been through this process, but we don't remember, right? So at that point of time, the child actually remembers the kind of abominable actions that it has performed in its previous birth. And it is completely the child, the fetus actually loses complete peace. And the jiva is actually the fetus is completely frightened, and it actually starts offering prayers to the Supreme Lord that, oh my Supreme Lord, once I come out, I will be your great. But the situation is, once it jumps out, it comes out, it forgets again everything. It forgets about what happened inside, and it forgets about the prayers also. So the main prayer that the fetus actually gives the Supreme Lord is, oh my Lord, I would like to take shelter of your lotus feet. So now specifically in this particular verse number 15 that we are covering here, the question is, how can a person who's actually deeply afflicted by this Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi again engage in loving devotional service to the Supreme Lord. And the main moot point here that we have to understand is, it is like again talking about the Damodar Leela. In Damodar Leela, what did we note? 2 fingers shot, which actually talks about our endeavor, and other one is the grace of the Supreme Personality of God. Only when these two combine together can all auspiciousness come. So here, in the purport of Srila Prabhupada and the verse here, it talks about, without the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one cannot understand his form, his activities, his pastimes, his quality, his name, etc. And when will a person be in a position to get some little understanding? When he is actually engaged in devotional services for many thousands of years to understand the absolute truth. Satyam Param. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchitananda Vigraha Nadirajir Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam. We have to first know Krishna is this Supreme Personality of Godhead, is known as Govinda. The second aspect that we have to know is he has a very, very, very beautiful, eternal, blissful, cheerful personality. And we have to know that he is the cause of all causes. We have to know that he is the origin of all origins. So to get that, we have to understand all these things. We have to read the scriptures to get the basic understanding. So here, when Krishna appeared 5,000 years ago, there were so many personalities who could see him in his original form. I remember in, I think, the last week's Srimad Bhagavatam class of His Grace Chaitanya Chandra Prabhu, he mentioned about Shishupal. Shishupal had the blessing, the so-called blessing, to see Lord Krishna face to face all the time, and 100 times he was ridiculing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Avajanati ma muda. Muda means less intelligent. So this less intelligent people, no matter, even if Bhagavan comes right in front of him, they will not be in a position to understand. So here, Arjuna, when he, after he heard the Bhagavad Gita, how did he glorify Lord Krishna? He said, Param Brahma, Parantama, Pavitram Paramam Bhavan, Purusham Shashvatam Divyam Aditevam Majam. He says, you are the Supreme Personality of God. You are the ultimate abode. You are the purest. You are the absolute truth. You are eternal. You are transcendental. You are the original person. He started glorifying Lord Krishna like that. So this is called as understanding. After reading all the Vedas, if we don't understand that Krishna is the one who has to be obtained ultimately, then what is the point of reading the Vedas? So this is the conditioning that we are currently in. So the fetus is actually, although it had a temporary memory, it is now covered by the material energy. And because of the influence of material energy, it doesn't understand and it forgets. And with regard to the forgetfulness, again, Bhagavan says in Bhagavad Gita 15:15, Sarvasya chakam hridi sannivishto mattasmriti jnanam apohanam cha vedescha sarve ahameva vedyo vedanta kritveda videka chakam. He says, the so-called remembrance and knowledge and forgetfulness comes from him because he is seated as Paramatma inside our heart. So the forgetfulness of this conditioned soul is due to, again, the direction given by the Supreme Entity, Supreme Lord. The living entity misuses the independence that is given, and he wants to lord over the material nature. If we forget Krishna, Maya will remember us. It's a very, very clear principle. So Maya is actually very, very strong, and is very, very difficult to surmount. But again, Srila Prabhupada and of course Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita says, if we are surrendered, then all these things is going to be very, very easy. Devi hesa gunamayi mama maya duratyaya. So here, the important aspect that we have to understand is Mam eva ye prabhadyante. So Bhagavan says, yes, material nature is very difficult to overcome. But for those who are surrendered, it will be very easy to pass through. It will be like the water that is caught in the footprints of a little calf. This entire samsara sagara, it looks like it's like an ocean. But when we are surrendered, it is like the water that is caught in the footprint of a calf, which is very, very insignificant. So it is said, go and tell. Don't go and tell Krishna how big is your problem. Go and tell your problem how big is Krishna. Don't go and tell Krishna how big is your problem, but go and tell your problem how big is Krishna, to mean that if Krishna is there with us, nothing can happen. Prabhupada usually, he always says that particular thing. Rake Krishna mare ke, mare Krishna rake ke. This is actually the perfect knowledge that Krishna is with us. We are all completely secured. And this knowledge comes only when we are completely engaged in devotional service. If we are not engaged in devotional service, we will suffer like how the materialist suffer. So this is basically the essence of this particular shloka, whereby we can understand the first thing is that the living entity is actually, this is a summary of what we have just discussed. The living entity, yes, he is under the influence of material nature. That is factual. And because of the karma, that the karmic activities and the influence of karma, the living entity has to struggle for his existence. And till such time he reaches a particular level of maturity, he is going to go through the chakra or the cycle of birth and death. And because of the conditioning of his life, he actually forgets his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is, we are actually, Bhagavan is our master and we are his eternal servants. We forget that. But through the mercy of the causeless mercy of the Supreme Lord, we can actually definitely engage in the transcendental loving service, and we can actually go back to Godhead. So this is basically the message of this particular shloka, which we have to understand thematically, which means we have to read this entire chapter 31, because it's actually laid down in a very beautiful logical way, and ultimately we have to endeavor doing the devotional service, and we have to definitely have the mercy of the Supreme Lord for us to go back to Godhead. So with this, I would like to conclude the class. In the next 10 minutes, we will just quickly discuss about Varaha Dwadasi, and then we can take any questions after that. So as you all know, tomorrow is the Varaha Dwadasi, the beautiful, the most auspicious appearance day of Lord Varahadev, who's actually the boar incarnation. Vasati dasana shikare dharani tavalagna sashini kalankalale vanimagna keshavadrita shukararupa jai jagadisha hare. O Keshava, O Lord of the universe, O Lord Hari, who has assumed the form of the boar, all glories to you. So, in the Sri Sampradaya, I have heard, among all the incarnations, they really adore the incarnation of Lord Varahadev. Because he took the form of a boar. Generally, boar, an animal of this nature, it's in a very abominable condition. But Bhagavan, to save the devotees, he will go to any extent, because typically he chose the form of the boar, because boar, a pig, can either be on the land or it can be on the water. So he took the form just in order to save Mother Earth, which was actually immersed in the Garbhodaka ocean at the bottom of the universes. So since the beginning of creation, we have the demons and the devatas or Vaishnavas. So these two classes have always been there. And Hiranyaksha, the brother of Hiranyakashipu, was the first demon in this universe. So it is said that only under certain conditions will the entire cosmic manifestation, the cosmic creation, will actually float like actually this weightless ball in the air. So if certain conditions are disturbed, actually the planets actually will fall in the Garbhodaka ocean. So, and from a material sense, we are in a place where we do a lot of oil extraction, which is actually causing a lot of disturbance. So in a way, we are also contributing to the cause of Hiranyaksha. So this disturbance was created formerly by the demons headed by Hiranyaksha, who actually loved a lot of gold. He was actually he was considered to be a gold exploiter. And then what had happened, the earth was actually detached from its weightless condition and then actually fell down into the Garbhodaka ocean. So Lord is actually the maintainer. He's a maintainer, he's a sustainer of this whole cosmic creation, the material world, the entire cosmos. So in order to save the creation, so he took the form of a gigantic boar. The Srimad Bhagavatam talks about how big the size of Varahadev was. We don't have the time to discuss that. So he snouted out the earth from the Garbhodaka ocean, and this Hiranyaksha tried to fight with the Lordship, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead pierced Hiranyaksha with his beautiful long tusk. Varahadev Bhagavan ki jai. So here Hiranyaksha thought that he was very strong and he was very powerful. And this is a typical character of a demon. But on the contrary, devotees always depend on the strength of the Lord. There's a big difference between independent and independence. Independent is thinking that I know everything, I am powerful, I have acquired my strength because of my own effort. Independence means we are always dependent on the Supreme Lord. So on the auspicious day of Varaha Dwadasi, what should be our goal? Our goal is just to please Krishna. A small child asked, can you please define the meaning of devotional service? Devotional service means to please Krishna, nothing else. So, as practitioners of Krishna consciousness, our aim is to chant nicely, dance nicely, eat prasadam nicely, and all our struggles are completely vanquished. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much once again to all the devotees for your patient hearing. And as I always keep telling and meditating, it is a great opportunity for the preacher to be completely engaged in Krishna consciousness whenever we get the opportunity to preach. So I would like to once again thank His Grace Manibhushan Krishna Prabhuji, Sudarshan Vasudev Prabhuji, and Shivagana Prabhuji for giving me this opportunity, because this whole week was a transcendental week for me. So I would kindly request more such opportunities in the months to come, so that I am always engaged in this in reading Srimad Bhagavatam. So if there's any shortcomings in my lecture, please forgive me, and also at the same time, please bless me that I should always do a better job by echoing whatever Srila Prabhupada and the other great acharyas have given us. So thank you very much. Maybe it's already 10:30, so 1 hour is over already. So maybe if there are any doubts, we can use this time to take a few questions. If there are no questions, we can say Hare Krishna and wind up the class. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu. Exactly on time. We started at 9:30. Sharp 10:30 have completed the class. Of course, you would like to hear more and more.
Thank you,
the nectar. So it was
and I need more and more of your blessing also, Prabhuji.
Krishna's blessings, Prabhu. So it was so vividly explained, Prabhu. Like we say that the child food is given, so easily digestible. Like that, you have explained so beautifully. Very simple, in a simple way, in a simple language, you can say. Simple and very interesting way. And also you covered many points from the chapters, the previous chapter, the current chapter, the living entity struggle and the solution, how it can get that lotus feet of the Lord, and also the pastimes of Lord Varahadev, as we all requested from you. So thank you, Prabhu. Thank you very much for putting your time and explaining so nicely. So, any devotees have any questions, comments to add, or you need some clarifications, you are most welcome to unmute yourself and ask Prabhuji now. Hare Krishna.
Our devotees are all well learned, so I think I have to gain more knowledge from them. So if there is any feedback, please feel free to share. If you feel that I've missed out on any important point, please let us use the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for a wonderful, nice class. And Actually, every day we have this reading sessions, but
Yes, Prabhuji.
only 4 or 5 persons only joining. So others can, if those who are available, they can join for regular reading
Yes,
in the
Prabhuji.
morning 9:30.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Sudarshan Vaste Prabhu, you can.
Yes, Prabhuji. This only Madajis can help us, or the Prabhujis who don't have duty or shift duties only can help. Housewife Madajis can definitely join, and otherwise, like those who are working half. Now government sector and big private companies are working half, I believe. So they can help us. Take the they can release the nectar, the nectar every day in the morning. So otherwise we can publish in more and more of the groups also, and our other brother groups, other mandal group also we can publish, and we can encourage people.
No need.
Okay, so this time is suitable only for the shift people on shift duty, and those who are not very busy at office, they can spare to go. So don't expect more strength. We tried for that. So what can we do?
Today, I think good response, Prabhu.
Yeah, today very good. Sir.
Yes.
That is because of the speaker.
Yes.
Oh, no, Prabhuji. Nothing like that, Prabhuji.
And Prabhuji, one more thing is there. In other times, I think now, I think in one house, I think at the 2 phones are used. Other times, if they are all at home, they may be using 1 phone for the entire family. Maybe they are at different workplaces or doing different activities.